The following may contain language that is not suitable for all audiences. It's time for the Low Fat Podcast. I wish we had a manlier instrument.
I like the bell. That's just me, though.
So here's something that I kind of thought of. I first started thinking about it before the election, and I think about it much more now. But the people who oppose Donald Trump,
Which is a lot of people.
yeah, I remember one time when there was some black friends that I know who were essentially shaking their heads and going, "I just don't get it," when they found out that there were other black friends that supported Donald Trump.
Yes.
And the whole statement was, "I don't see how you can support this guy. Don't you even know who the abuser is? You don't even know that he's abusing you."
Wow.
And I didn't want to,
Rain on their parade?
no, it's not that. I didn't want to come up with some gigantic emotional discussion about racial superiority, because that's the thing, right? A lot of people are sitting there saying that Donald Trump is like the candidate of the white supremacists,
Right.
and
I don't know. It just makes me laugh.
and so they're just saying that he's a white supremacist.
But there's no evidence for that.
I don't see how he's a white supremacist. And whenever someone says, "Well, there's all these white supremacists that support him," I think of
Barack Obama?
well, yeah, because when the same allegation was posed against him for whatever, I don't know if it was a communist or
It was
some
some
kind
crackpot.
yeah, it's probably a communist, but basically he comes out, he's like, "Well, I can't help who likes me."
And everyone's like, okay then.
Yeah, and so I don't see how what's good for the goose can't be good for the gander.
Absolutely. But also when you look at Trump's track record of what he's done for the African American community
But this is not going to be a whole
okay.
issue about the Trump thing. But you can go ahead and finish your statement.
No, it's just his track record does not prove out what these people say about Donald Trump.
So the people that are these progressive left folks that say that, you don't even know who your abuser is, right? And that led me to start thinking about, well, who's all in for the Democratic Party, the progressive left party, right? And
you mean like what do you mean as in who? When you say who do you mean? When you say who's all in?
What interests? I mean, right? The Democratic Party is supposed to be the party of the working person, the common man, so to speak, right?
It was.
Supposedly, Representative Cortez has a T-shirt out, or a sweatshirt, that basically says, "Tax the rich," right?
Okay.
This sweatshirt costs $60 almost.
Oh, wow.
I have never in my life spent $60 for a sweatshirt.
Really? Oh, I have.
For a sweatshirt.
Yeah, I have.
I'm not talking about like a nice pair of trousers. I'm not talking about like a hoity-toity Ponzi pen.
Neither am I.
Hell, I don't even think I spent $60 on a tie.
Yeah, but you're always looking for the deals.
Oh, dude, I used to get all kinds of hell from people like, because they had their Donna Karan ties, or their Versace ties, their super nice ties.
Yeah.
And they saw my ties like, "Oh, you got that from like a department store, right?" I'm like, "Yeah," and I spent $10 for it.
Yeah. Well, people that are paying $40 for a T-shirt, that's pretty stupid.
$60 for a sweatshirt that says "Tax the Rich." And on top of that, the materials of that sweatshirt is stuff that cannot be recycled.
Isn't she rich?
Well, she's gonna be.
If she's not, she's getting there.
And this is not going to be some kind of like attack Representative Cortez thing either, because there are plenty of other people that do it. But going on to the interests that are really supporting the Democratic Party right now, they're super rich.
Yep.
How are these people the common man?
They're not.
How do these people even care about what's going on with the common man?
They don't.
You know, I'm reminded of a story about John Cougar Mellencamp, who has all these songs about how he was born in a small town. He's, you know...
I like his stuff.
Right. The story I heard was one time before a concert, he was about to eat lunch at the venue, which was a super stadium because it attracts so many people, right? Mm-hmm. He wanted them to close the curtains of the VIP area that he was at because he didn't want to see the workers setting up the stage.
What?
Now... Again,
is that true?
Again, that could quite possibly be false. It could be a whole Marie Antoinette let him eat cake thing.
Yeah.
Which supposedly there's no documented evidence of her ever having said that.
Maybe he just didn't want people to see him like eating.
He was so far away from them. This is like think of like a football stadium.
See, that story makes no sense to me.
Well, sure it doesn't, but you know.
Where did you hear this story?
Dude, I heard it from a friend, like. 15th hand or something. So
right.
it could definitely be false. But that I'm using it more for illustrative purposes than factual purposes.
Right.
But going back to the you don't know who your abuser is, I mean, if you're the common man that's trying to earn a living, why would you support the political party that is supported by the super rich?
Well, I don't think you would. And I think that's what happened.
But they do. There are all these people that believe that they're in the Democratic Party because they're empathetic and they're compassionate and whatnot, and that's a whole other topic. But
you might be right. There might be. Actually, you know what? I can think of some working class folks that I know who absolutely are all for the Democrats.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, I'm a working class dude.
Yeah.
I may have a superior education. And by superior meaning more of, not better.
Right.
So because I've gone on to graduate professional studies, I'm still a working class dude.
Yeah, you definitely got a working class mentality for sure.
And so, for me,
well, you get on better with working class people, right?
Because they're my kind of people.
Yeah, working class people are good people. I would say just about all of them.
And that's just like it kind of blew my mind when this person said that. I was like, oh, you don't even know who your abuser is. I'm just sitting there going, why do you go for the Democrat? I wish I'd asked. Like, why are you a Democrat?
Yeah, but that's a slippery fucking slope, isn't it?
That's another term that I really hate.
Slippery slope?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that. You're like, okay, that's tough titty, but here, let me keep talking.
Well, forget that I said slippery slope, but you know what I'm talking about.
I can't forget, dude.
It's forget that I said slippery slope.
3 times.
Slippery slope.
I can't 4 times. Are you going for like a set of steak knives if you say?
Well, it's a slippery slope once you start saying slippery slope.
So, are you trying to say it as many times, and if you hit a magic number, you get a set of steak knives or something?
Yeah, the Ginsu can cut through cans. Do they even sell the Ginsu steak knives anymore?
I think they've got the new and improved thing that's not called a Ginsu anymore. Now it's like the ceramic knives.
Okay. Oh, I broke my buddy's ceramic knife. He was not happy.
Was he a jerk?
Yep.
Well then...
I hope he's not listening. If you are listening, I didn't mean to call you a jerk. He's probably not listening.
Well,
No, but it's like, what is the fucking point of engaging? This is my question.
Well, at one point, engaging used to be good because people were very interconnected and they acknowledged it.
I don't think anybody's really interested in really engaging anymore.
It seems like that's the way it is now. I mean,
they just really want to, like, if you engage with them, then it's not gonna, well, maybe this is a fatalistic thing to say, but I feel like it's not gonna go anywhere.
There are people that think that we're on track to have parallel societies.
Well, what does that look like?
Well, Twitter, Parlay,
okay.
YouTube, BitChute.
Is BitChute like YouTube?
Yeah. Except BitChute doesn't...
Why aren't we on BitChute then?
I think you have to put it on there. And BitChute's having a hard time a little bit right now. They're trying to find providers.
That's just another place to post. I don't know.
But people that believe there was widespread voter fraud and people that believe there wasn't this time.
That's pretty black and white.
But last time too, right?
Well, also the funny thing is that People who believe there was widespread voter fraud this time around, which is a lot of people. I think it's 72 million. It's probably 72 million
At
people.
least, dude, I believe that there was...
Actually, they were saying that, like, a lot of Democrats think there was as well.
They should. There's a lot of evidence of it.
So it's probably more than 72 million people that think it.
There's a lot of evidence of it, and it should be investigated. Dude, just like last time when the narrative was, oh, the Russians bought like, 100, bought some Facebook ads and it changed the election. Okay, let's investigate. Let's find out. They investigated and they didn't find out anything. They're like, well, okay, there was nothing. Nobody here was involved. But, the open secret is that there's always going to be some kind of election cheating. I mean, that's everybody kind of snickers about it.
I didn't realize that.
Just like everybody kind of snickers about cops are corrupt and they take bribes and stuff. I'm sure that's not everybody. Hell, I'm sure that's not even a majority.
Nah.
But I'm sure it also must be super tempting. I mean, come on, man. I sound like the weird Joe Biden. I don't know what I would do. If I were a policeman and I happened to come in on a drug bust and there was like $20 million sitting right in front of me, and I could take a couple of handfuls and no one would notice.
Which would probably be a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Let's say it's $50,000.
It's probably in the hundreds of thousands.
Right.
But,
well, it's drug money, right? Who's going to miss it?
Can I honestly sit there and say I wouldn't be tempted? No, dude. I get tempted by watching women on. I get sexually excited when a friend of mine that I don't see in a sexual way, a female, sits there and types in talking about her fat ass. I'm like, ooh, fat ass.
I think you just need to get some, dude.
Well, okay, but that's beside the point. But what I'm saying is it is impossible not to be tempted. And any police officer that can look at that temptation and say,
What if your intention is to do good with that money?
Well, here's a statement that I will soon regret. You ever heard of the doctrine of fruit of the poisonous tree?
Yes.
Well, I kind of take that attitude towards it.
Really? That anything that could come from stealing couldn't be good?
Well, there are people that don't want to use Nazi, like the human experiments that came out of the Nazi concentration camps.
Yes.
There are people that would refuse that.
Oh, well, here's...
I mean...
shit, I just saw something today, and this, again, is like totally off topic.
What a surprise.
Can we go off topic?
If we were on a topic, then you'd have to ask that, but because we're not on a track, right?
So I saw something today, and this is like contentious discussion area, and I don't know if this is true.
You mean between us, or?
No, just in, like, this is really contentious shit.
Okay.
So it was a post about vaccines and about fetal cells being used.
In the vaccines?
In the vaccines.
Ew.
Or either for creating the vaccines or in the vaccines. I'm not sure if it's like in the vaccine or for creating the vaccine. But either way, it showed like all the front running, vaccines for corona. Mm-hmm. And like, I think 6 out of 8 of them or 7 out of 8 of them involved fetal cells.
Oh.
So from aborted babies.
Yeah, one would imagine.
So, and I'm like, is this for real?
Could be. I mean, because, right?
Because how come nobody's talking about that?
I think it's because of this. Let's say that there's some kind of cure-all drug for something that very few people have, right? But is incredibly debilitating. And I don't...
You mean the diseases?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if you say there's a cure, I found it by essentially experimenting on people. And when I experimented on people, I tortured them. Right, I used their bodies and I cut them open and I did all kinds of these experiments on these people who basically were at my mercy.
It's fucked up.
Right. And there's a cure for this. I found a way to cure that debilitating disease that, let's say less than 1% of the population of the world would ever get.
And it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's a fucking horrible, horrible disease.
Well, it's super painful, right?
Right.
I think most people would sit there and say, you know what? That research should not be used. I believe that most people would sit there and say that research should not be used.
What if you're the person that
That's the next question, right? What if your sister was a person?
It's not even a question,
right? Right. So
it's like, or if I had it, it's not even a question. I'd be like, well, that shit that went on was awful, but
well, for me, it's more motivating to talk about someone that I love,
okay,
or care about,
rather than you.
Yeah, well, yeah, because remember, I grew up in a culture and geographic location, right? One of my favorite bumper stickers and T-shirts and
You're
logos.
talking about your Southern culture.
Yeah, well, dude, one of my favorite little bumper stickers was "American by birth, Southern by the grace of God," which is kind of strange because I'm not Caucasian.
Are you trying to get rid of our woke audience?
No,
I don't think we have a woke audience.
If we do, I think the chances of them getting woker are higher.
Woker or less woke?
More woke.
No, they're going to get less woke. Oh, you mean if they listen?
Actually, yeah. To using the actual definition of woke because they're saying you're enlightened.
Well, I'm talking about woke.
Right, you're talking. Well, that's what they're talking about. The whole point of woke is
what does woke means enlightened?
I think that's what they mean.
Oh.
I'm woke. I'm enlightened. I can see things, you ignorant idiot.
You can't.
But now we use that as a pejorative.
Yes, we do.
And
I do.
By saying we, I mean the people that kind of don't accept the whole woke ideology.
Actually, and the pejorative thing is not good either. Like, that just creates more division.
It can, but everything in the last 30 years has been kind of geared towards whether it was the intent, but everything that's been going on the last 30 years has really been geared towards us being divided, us being less interactive.
Yep.
And the funny thing is we all volunteered for it and said, "Oh yeah, that's great," because it was sold as, "Hey, it's going to make you more connected." BS. How can you? And again, I'm going to use a real vulgar analogy here. Is like you can't save your virginity by fucking.
Well, that's true.
But when I first heard about the whole social media stuff and Facebook when it first came out in like the early 2000s, and people were like, "Oh yeah, it's going to help people get more connected," and I'm sitting there going, "How? How on earth am I going to be more connected to people sitting in my house on my computer?"
See,
and now it's on your phone, but
I take exception as well to, like, speaking of like online versus in person. I always think of like the religious example, right? The example of going to a church versus like the online church service. And like I have no interest in an online church service. I want to go into the church, be in the congregation and be there. And for me, like that's like people that try and sit there and say, well, it's not perfect, right? Or it's not ideal, but it's something. And I'm like, it's not something. It doesn't work. That's kind of what I guess what we're talking about, but kind of not, because my whole point about the whole being more connected, because basically what the whole social media stuff is really saying is you can be more connected by being alone. That's
right. That to me is like I don't get it. What you're talking about, I believe, is a little different because people experience religion and their faith grows by being together.
Yeah, well, so
on an intellectual level, I can totally see how sitting there, how reading the scriptures and all that by yourself could make you, just as religious on an intellectual level. I believe this.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to go to church to be super into a faith.
And you certainly don't need to go to church to pray. That's for sure.
But
it's always the people that aren't religious that sit there and say, well, they'd talk about how an online church service is okay because of coronavirus, right? And I'm like, you're not religious. So I'm going to take what you say with a freaking grain of salt at this point.
Well, I think I'm not here to take the side of those people, but
they're saying the risk is too much, like.
Well, yeah, but what they're really saying is you don't need to be around other people for your faith to grow, and that is I know for a fact that that's wrong. your faith can grow much faster, because faith, just like fear, just like love, just like anger, is really contagious. If you sit around a bunch of angry people, you're going to be angry.
This is true.
You sit around a bunch of like happy people, despite yourself, you're going to be happy.
But I just really take exception when people that aren't religious weigh in and talk about how all these religious people that are wanting to go to church are, Well, they don't say they're nut jobs, but they're like, don't they understand that like they're exposing themselves, and so they should, as your betters, you should be listening to me because obviously you're not.
Isn't there an easy answer to that? I mean, it's because the situation is the same. So shouldn't these people be okay with being by themselves and not talking to anyone except online? You don't need to be with your family. They could just do it online. You don't need to be with your kids. You can just do it online. And they'll sit there and go, well, of course that's stupid. My kids can't, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, you don't need to be with your wife. You can just do it online.
And then they're going to be like, that's stupid.
Well, but it's the same analogy. That's exactly what they've suggested.
But
you don't need to have any kind of actual physical intimate moments with your spouse. You can just do it online.
Yeah, and they won't get it.
Warm up the whole computer, turn your cam on, and just sit there and masturbate together.
Ugh.
That's the same, isn't it?
No.
You don't need to answer that, but that's basically what they're saying. You don't need to be in a church with other faithful. You could just kind of warm up your computer and just do it online. That's the same. Well, you're right. It's exactly the same as if you sat in one location, your wife sat in another location, you warmed up your computer, and you decided to have sex by masturbating while talking to each other.
And the reason that these people say it is because they don't put any value in, I believe, is that they don't really put any value in faith.
Well, that's where you're wrong. We're all religious. We're so geared towards religion, we will grab onto anything and worship it, whether it be the right thing or the wrong thing. And yes, in this situation, I think there's a right and wrong thing. You worship money, that's wrong. You worship God, I think that's right. Do I go to church regularly? No, I don't. I'm not even a C&E man. All right.